It's time to go car racing, Frank. Time to step into a racing machine. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Let's get her live on the air. Here she is, Cassie. Cassie, say her last name so I say it right.
It's Gannis.
All right, I was right. Welcome to Totally Driven Radio. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys? Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on. You know, we're like called Totally Driven, and we haven't ventured into this world of sports or car racing, whatever you want to call it. We have not ventured into this world yet, and this is something we've been wanting to do. And I think you're the perfect person to do it because, first off, you're a female, and it's like the new thing now because females are not only getting big in auto racing, but in every facet of entertainment, the females are taking over the world. So why not talk to an up-and-comer who's going to be taking over the NASCAR world? And you, like, amaze us. As we start doing research on you, it's like, here's a girl who started racing cars when she was 10 years old. How does this happen?
Yeah, I started at a pretty young age. My dad actually raced just for fun at the local dirt tracks here in Phoenix, and I actually used to be a competitive swimmer. So that's what I did first, and I always wanted to go to the track, hang out with my dad, and just be around cars all the time. So finally one day he was passing by South Mountain and saw this little quarter-meter track and decided why not put me in one of those and have some fun, and now we're racing full-blown stock cars.
Wow. So did you, like, start driving, like, cars before you, like, rode a bike?
No, I was riding a bike before I started racing cars, but I always used to race people on my bike called the neighborhood kids. I always used to want to race them, so I guess I always had racing in me.
That's just I still the picture, like, I guess it's kind of big too, because I've heard of, like, other like, I guess this goes on all around the country where they have little things like that for kids to get involved at a young age like that in the whole world of racing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can actually start when you're 5 years old to get into a little go-kart or quarter midgets and be racing at 50 miles an hour. So I
Really?
actually started at the older age.
Wow. So
Yeah, I didn't realize that they go that fast.
No.
That's amazing. I mean, that's basically 5 miles below the speed limit, and for a 10-year-old to be able to handle that kind of speed, that's amazing. That simply just shows you, because a lot of people who don't understand racing don't realize how much you got to concentrate and you got to stay focused because you're basically zooming around at unheard of speeds, and you got to stay in your lane, and then you got to concentrate on passes, and you got to do this all while taking into consideration that the wrong move can cause an accident.
Yeah, there's a lot of people say it's not a sport, but if you start to get to know racing, it's definitely a sport because one split second you can cause a crash or hurt yourself or hurt somebody else because you have to have the mental focus and the physical capability to handle a car going over 100 miles an hour.
Now, have you had any accidents yet?
I have, yeah, but luckily I've not gotten hurt at all. So knock on wood there that I haven't had any serious injuries yet.
Now, since NASCAR is predominantly at this point a male sport, did you find it was harder for you to break in and get your foot in the door because they weren't just giving you the credit that you obviously deserve?
Yeah, a lot of the male drivers didn't really take me serious at first just because they thought, oh, I'm a female, I'm not going to do good, I'm just out there for show type of thing. But I started shoving my weight around because they always used to try to take me out, hit me type of stuff while we're on the track, and when they hit me on the track, I bumped them back. So after I started doing that to them and started throwing my weight around with them, everything just stopped, and they started giving me the respect I deserved.
It almost seems like you know, if you're out there, I mean, in racing, you deserve to be out there. So the respect should be there. And I think the guys need to understand that women can drive a car just as well as they can. And, you know, just because they haven't been in a sport doesn't mean that they couldn't do it. It just means that, you know, the sport's finally evolving. And that's something else, especially with these long races. How do you stay focused for so long?
It's really hard. You just have to keep on focusing. Like, when you're doing the race, you're not as tired because your adrenaline is up. But then as the race goes on, you just start getting more and more worn out. But you still have to have that mental capability that you still have to stay focused and the body to keep focused as well. Because if you make that one split-second error, something can happen to you in the car. So it's definitely really hard during longer races to stay focused, but it's something that you train to do.
Yeah, and what people don't realize is not only do you have to stay focused, you have to concentrate on what you're doing, you also have to keep in mind the condition that your car is in while you're racing, because, you know, if you go too long, you're going to blow out a tire, you're going to, you know, there's just a number of things that can happen. So it's like almost a twofold thing where you not only do you got to concentrate on your driving, you still got to keep in mind the condition that your car's in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one thing you got to keep on focusing too, and when the car is not handling right, you start getting more and more exhausted because your body's taking most of the hits because you're trying to control the car more, so that's making you more and more tired, so you just got to keep on pushing through it, and it's making your mind exhausted because you're trying to keep the car straight and keep it on track to where you're going.
Here's a goofy question, and it's something I've always wondered. When you're doing the long races, what happens if you have to go to the bathroom? I mean, seriously,
You honestly don't think about it because you have so much stuff going on that you're focusing on. You really don't think about it until you finally stop. You're like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom now.
I always like some of these races, they're like 500 laps, right? And it's just like, wow, like I'd be going nuts. I'd be like on the 200th lap and like, I got 300 more to go.
Yeah, you honestly don't even think about it when you're out there because you got so much stuff going on your mind that you don't even think about going to the bathroom.
Now, something else we found out about you when I'm doing research, you were involved with a reality show a couple years ago on BET, Changing Lanes?
Yeah, it was for a driver development program back in North Carolina for Revolutionary Racing, and they did a reality show for the combine, which is kind of like a football combine in a way, where they invited 20 drivers out to compete for this program, so they put you through a mental test, a physical program test, and then on-track testing as well. And that was all combined into the TV show.
Huh. And how'd you end up doing with that? How far did you get in that?
I did actually pretty good. I made it to the top 9, and only 5 of them made it. So I actually did pretty good.
Now, are you, like, what is it, like different rungs, like different sectors of NASCAR? Is it how it works, or?
Yeah, there's different ranks. You have the top series in NASCAR, which is the Sprint Cup Series, which you have the Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson type of racing, and then you have the Nationwide Series, and then the Truck Series, and then it splits off from there. It can go from K&N East and West to ARCA, which I'm in the K&N West right now, and it kind of breaks down after that as well into the late models, legends, bandoleros, corner midgets, and things like that.
So basically it's kind of like a minor league system almost, and I guess you can work your way up. Is that what happens?
Yeah, pretty much. You pretty much start out in a small series and then kind of step your way up into each series after that. Now,
I guess the better you're doing races, I guess you get the attention of other race teams in the bigger league or sponsors, or is that how it works? Or
Yeah, the better you are in racing, the more sponsors attract you to help fund your racing, as well as the better teams to look at you more to go into those higher up racing divisions as well.
Now, I mean, that's like a huge part of the whole racing world is the sponsors. I mean, there's so much money involved. I mean, not just for just being for you, but for the cars. I mean, like, how many different cars do you have in your for yourself?
Right now, we just have one car because that's all we can afford right now. I work a full-time job trying to help my dad pay for it, and then we also have a marketing company, too, called Phoenix Marketing and Associates, who are trying to help me find sponsors as well.
Wow.
Now,
yeah,
now how much? I'm sorry. How much do you think it charges to run one race? I mean, what is the average cost involved with just running the car for one race?
It depends on what car you're in. Like, my late model is about $2,000 to $3,000, depending on where we go. But if you step up into the K&N series, which is a traveling series, you're looking at $30,000 to $40,000 a race.
Wow, yeah, I can see why you need a lot. Why they have so many sponsors now.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it's funny. When I was growing up as a kid, I was growing up in the 70s. That's what I wanted to do, was be a race car driver. I used to sit there on Saturday afternoons and watch, you know, it was Richard Petty in his prime in the 70s. And I remember when Darrell Wortrip was coming up, like, he was the big rage. All of a sudden, it was Darrell Wortrip, and every week it was him and Richard Petty going at it, and I would get so upset. I was like, who's this new guy coming on the thing? And then, like, my whole fascination with NASCAR died because I discovered the band Kiss, and my life went in a totally different direction. So, NASCAR still, it just amazes me, like, because I think back when I was a little kid watching it, to just the amazing how it's grown into such a massive just organization and like fan base that it has today.
Yeah, we're actually, when when the race came here to Phoenix, the Cup race, it was actually bigger than what the Super Bowl brought in for 1 year. We doubled their percentages for people who came to the track, how much money people spend.
Wow.
And people who are actually watching NASCAR now is more than the Super Bowl.
So, and you're out in Phoenix. So, I mean, normally when you think of NASCAR, you think of down south in the Carolinas, down that way. But I guess it's just as big out in the West where you are then, too, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty big out here on the West Coast, but obviously it's more dominant back on the East Coast just because that's where NASCAR originated.
Yeah, because I live probably about an hour away from Dover Downs Raceway. And I know when they come there, friends of mine would go sometimes, and they would say, like, when you go to drive down there, it's literally like that hour drive turns into an 8-hour drive because the traffic is just so massive and so backed up getting down there. And it's like over 100,000 fans there for it. It's just incredible. I have to go sometime just to experience it.
Yeah, racing is definitely you have to experience in person to get to know it and love it, because it's one of those things where you watch it on TV and it doesn't look that exciting and it kind of looks boring. But when you go out there and actually watch it, it's amazing to watch.
Well, I'll tell you, having been to Dover Downs, it is definitely a spectator live sport. TV, it's one of them things that doesn't translate well to TV because all you're seeing is the cars going around in the circles. But when you're there, it is an adrenaline rush. I mean, the sounds, the sights, just everything. And when the cars pass by, you actually feel, no matter where you're sitting, when the cars come flying by, you feel it. And it really is an excitement that I didn't think I would be into it as much as I was because back in, I don't know if you noticed, but Philadelphia used to be a real big in a drag racing city. And every weekend there would be numerous drag races all over the streets of Philadelphia. So, if you grew up in Philadelphia and you owned a somewhat fast car, you were definitely into racing. And some of the buddies from down at the drag races all wanted to go down and witness a race. And this was back in the early 90s. And it was just unbelievable when it comes to seeing it live.
Yeah, it's definitely something you definitely have to go to watch it, because you get those sounds and you get those when cars go flying by. You can feel it in the bleachers and having it shake and watching the excitement of racing. Now,
one thing with the recent tragedy at the races, where you had that accident and unfortunately some people were severely hurt. As a racer, do you think that they are doing enough right now to keep the drivers and the spectators safe?
I think they're doing an amazing job keeping us safe. We have the helmets, the neck restraints, and the seatbelts and the seats too to keep us safe. And unfortunately at Daytona, it was a freak accident that some fans got hurt because they hit the fence, the cars hit the fence, and it was just one of those freak accidents that you don't know what's going to happen. And they have worked on the safety fences around the track to help prevent that not to happen. And then us being in the car being safe, and some drivers do unfortunately get killed. But, I mean, that's the risk we're taking when we get into the car. We know the risk, we know the dangers, and it's something that you just put on the back burner on your head, and you don't even think about it when you're out on the track.
No, well, you almost can't think about that, because if you did, there'd be a lot more accidents than what we see. I mean, you definitely got to be focused, because I don't know if you've ever been down on the East Coast, but if you've ever driven I-95 down around Philadelphia, just trying to focus on that is hard enough. So I can imagine with cars going over 100 some miles an hour, how hard that would be.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you're afraid of hurting yourself or hurting others, there is no point of you being in a race car, because you're going that fast and you need to concentrate on what you're doing and not worried about getting hurt.
Now, something you mentioned earlier was like cars, you're banging cars back and forth and all while you're racing. And it really doesn't come across, like if you watch racing on TV, you don't really see it as much. And then, like, when I saw, like, years ago when the movie Days of Thunder came out, you see the actual insight into the racing part of it, where you're seeing all the banging back and forth you guys are doing. And is it really that much? I mean, I didn't honestly realize it until I saw that movie when it came out, like, 15 years ago. I mean, is it seriously that much going on?
No, it's not that much of what Days of Thunder does. Days of Thunder exaggerates it. But what you see on TV is kind of what you get at the racetrack. There's some bumping going on, but if you go to the local short track, there's a lot of bumping going on, but not a lot. It's kind of like hitting the back of someone's car just to kind of move them out of the way because you're faster than them and things like that. Not beating the doors off of another car.
Now, how tough is it to really, like, get involved in racing? Like, somebody who's been wanting to do it all their life. I mean, do you really need to start when you're a kid? Is it something you can somehow get involved with as a teenager? Or
anybody can start racing now, whether you're 5 years old or 50 years old, if not older than that. You can actually start racing in bombers, factory stocks, late models, stuff like that, to get your feet wet and start racing that way and go to the local tracks around your area to get involved in racing that way.
Wow. And you're involved with, like, I mean, it's like a laundry list of community service events and projects you do. I mean, and then you said you work a full-time job, and then with like, how do you find all the time? I mean, you're doing so much.
Yeah, I definitely don't have a life at all outside of anything. But I like doing my community service, and I like doing my full-time job as well, and I'm really passionate about because I have a no texting and driving program that I do, and I go around to schools and talk to schools and teenagers my age about how texting and driving is so important because that's what's killing a lot of teenagers, if not getting them into a lot of accidents. And then I also go to military bases here in Phoenix as well as California to talk to them about the dangers of texting and driving as well.
Wow.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge problem. I'll tell you, probably about a month and a half ago, I almost got creamed at a stop sign because a woman was literally texting and not looking up and almost didn't stop. And I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me with this? What is so important that you're not going to even look up and see that there's a stop sign ahead of you?
Yeah, it's definitely texting is getting so bad now that people are getting in cars and they don't realize it that they're using cars as weapons now because they don't see the person stopped right in front of them, and unfortunately they hit them or a pedestrian crossing the street.
Yeah, it unfortunately, I mean, I'm guilty of it. I do it at times, and yeah, I mean, I'm pretty stupid for doing it. I admit it. But it is, it's a horrible epidemic that's really going on right now. And I mean, I know when I drive back and forth to work, I'm driving up and down a highway, and I'm sitting in traffic, and you turn to the person next to you, and you're looking around, and everybody's on their phones. It's like every car. Even somebody was saying to me today, it's like all they see is just people walking around with their phones in their hand, not paying attention, walking into people, walking into walls. It's just insane the way these phones have just taken over people's lives.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll admit it, too. I am addicted to my cell phone. But when I get into the car, I turn it on silent and put it on the passenger floor because I know if it starts going off, I'm tempted to look at it. And that's the problem. People are so addicted to their cell phones that it's just a habit of you looking at it and automatically responding.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, the new cars coming out don't help the situation any. Like I have a 2012 Prius, and the cell phone, and especially if you have an iPhone, actually syncs up with the dashboard, so that you now have the internet in the car. So the car manufacturers aren't helping the situation any. Where some things will be disabled while you're driving, other things will not be, and it's just impossible to do and concentrate on your driving while you're sitting there playing with a computer screen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, car companies aren't making it any easier because you can just get into your car and you got your full-blown computer system there, and a lot of people are messing around with that and unfortunately getting to accidents that way.
Yeah. I mean, they focus on the texting, but there's a lot more than texting going on, and as a driver, you just gotta start concentrating on the road because you're going to cause an accident. Now, what other kind of events and charity or events are you are involved with?
Right now, it's just that one. I'm trying to get into more. I'm actually looking into the Alzheimer's Foundation right now because my grandmother has it, and she's battling it right now. So I'm trying to get more involved with them because that's near and dear to my heart as well.
And that is a great cause. I do Trace Santa Claus at Christmas time, and last year I had the pleasure of visiting a couple of elderly homes, and I seen what Alzheimer's does to a family, and you know what? It's a shame because it's literally robbing a person of their memories, and some of the people were such a joy to be around, and then literally 10 minutes later they forgot that they were even around me, and it kind of broke your heart. So I give you all the credit in the world for trying to get involved with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a horrible disease to go through, and unfortunately my grandma has it. I actually visit her because I don't really have the time to go and visit her that much, which I feel horrible about. But I spent the 4th of July last year with them, and she had no idea who I was. So it's just a horrible disease that they're trying to do cures for it, but, I mean, there really is no cure for it right now, and there's probably not going to be one for my generation or any time pretty soon.
Right. Yeah, it's sad. That's sad. It's a sad situation, and hopefully you can get hooked up with and do something to help out. That would be really awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
What races do you have coming up next?
Right now we're kind of on hold for my racing because we just had a race last weekend, and the distributor broke on my car.
Oh.
So we're going to take the motor out and go through everything just to see if there's any internal damage on it and then put it back together. And we're hopefully going to be back racing maybe late July, August up in Las Vegas.
Cool. Very cool. Well, you'll have to keep us updated on everything, and you're the official Totally Driven race car driver now.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll keep in touch and win some races. We want to see you up there and passing Danica Patrick. What do you think of Danica? I mean, is she got to be an influence on you, I would imagine?
I think she is. I think she's an amazing driver, and I think she just needs time to get used to the car and the racing styles of NASCAR since she just switched over. But I think she's an amazing driver.
Well, hopefully, soon we'll see you up there racing her. I think that would be actually something to see. Getting more females in the main races, and let's see who's the best.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely my goal, is to make it up into the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
Well,
that
it looks
awesome.
like you're well on your way, and we wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you guys so much.
No problem, Cassie. No problem. Well, let's say we're going to be going on to the next segment now. So we want to thank Cassie for calling in. It's been a pleasure talking to you. We actually learned a lot. As you can tell, we're not big race car fans or, know too much, but you helped teach us some.
Yeah,
and definitely if you get the down in the East Coast in the area, you gotta give us a call and let us know, and we'll come out and support you.
Definitely, I'll definitely let you guys know when I'm racing out there next.
Have you made it out this way at all yet, or?
Yeah, I have. I'm actually going out there the second week of July to do a driver development program out there, out in Charlotte.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Very cool. Nice. All right, well, keep us updated, and we will keep tabs on you, and we'll keep all our fans updated, and we'll let everybody know how Cassie's doing, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, and thank you guys for having me again. It was a blast.
No problem. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that was Cassie Gannis, NASCAR driver. Keep an eye out for her.
Our official first NASCAR driver of Totally Driven Radio. So now we can truly say we are totally driven.
We are finally totally driven, and so is she. So how about that?
You got to give her credit. At 21 years old, the fact that she's been driving 11 years and she's basically, you heard it. She's doing it on her own. She's out there getting her sponsors, driving her races, working a job, helping out charities. That's what you want to hear in sports and entertainment. That you want to hear more stories like that.
Yeah, like when I talked to her on the phone last week, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Thursdays are great because I'm not working." I said to myself, "Wow, she's working and racing cars." And then I was like, you're reading up on her. She's doing all this community service stuff. It's like, wow. I mean, she's 21 years old. She's got a full plate going on. She's a real woman of the world, and she's bringing it.